how can a Muslim woman give dawah, especially if her husband is almost a full-time da'i? How can a woman do dawah if the husband is a full-time da'i? It is compulsory that every Muslim, whether man or woman, should do dawah. Whether husband or wife, or whether the spouse is a da'i or not, it is compulsory. It is one of the requirement for any human being to go to Jannah according to Surah Al-Asr, chapter number 103, verse number 1 to 3. It is fard. Now, how can do? I would say that if a woman, her husband is a full-time da'i, all the more easier to do for her to do dawah. Similarly, for a husband, if the woman is a full-time da'i, for him to do dawah is much more easier. As Allah says in the Quran, in the same verse of fasting in Surah Baqarah chapter 2, verse number 187, Hunna libasul lakum wa antumna libasul lahunna. That you are their garments and they are your garments. If both husband and wife are da'is, it is excellent. It's much more easier. And while women are doing dawah, you should be careful that you should not break the rules of the Sharia. Because many a times, when women do dawah, when I travel in the foreign Western countries, I find that Muslim women are doing dawah, but they are not careful in maintaining the Sharia rules. And I also see that there's a Muslim woman wearing a hijab with a non-Muslim man in a closed cabin and discussing for hours together about Islam. This is not accepted. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, if two nahmaram are closed in a room, the third person is a devil. You have to maintain your hijab. You cannot look into a nahmaram and a man looking into a woman, a nahmaram, or a woman looking into a man, nahmaram, into the eyes, and then for concentration and doing dawah fast together, you have to lower your gaze. You glance, it's okay. You cannot look into the eyes of a nahmaram and speak for minutes and hours together. So you have to maintain this hijab. While giving to dawah one-to-one, it is preferable a man does to a man and a woman does to a woman. Only if a speciality is required, a woman cannot give the answers, and if the woman goes to a man for seeking the answers, you should see to it that there is a mahram. Like in our organization, Islamic Research Foundation, when a lady's question couldn't be answered by the ladies wing or by my wife, and if appointment was required, my wife be with me, or the lady's husband was there, or the lady's father was there, we maintain the hijab, we don't look into the eyes, we lower the gaze and speak, it's possible. But the best is man to man and woman to woman when it is one to one. Otherwise, while writing books, of course, a man writes a book, everyone reads, no problem. Woman writes a book, everyone reads, no problem at all. While giving lecture, it is preferable a man gives a lecture, there's no problem being a mixed gathering. But if a woman is giving a lecture, it is preferable that the audience should only be females, so that she can maintain her hijab and she can maintain Sharia. Regarding how can a woman do dawah, especially if the husband is a full-time da'i, the best example is my wife, mashallah. Even I would call her almost a full-time da'i. I'm a full-time da'i, and my wife is also almost a full-time da'i. And I selected marrying my wife was because she was a da'i, and it's much more easier, because even if you're a da'i, you cannot say I'm a da'i, that's why I will not give time to my family. Our beloved Prophet said that the best amongst the believers is the one who is best to his family, especially the wife. Now, if you're a full-time da'i and you're busy, then the chances of you giving time is less. So if a wife is a da'i, then what do? You give time to and discuss that. You're doing two-in-one, Venn diagram. You're doing the work of spreading the message of Allah, at the same time giving time to your wife. So if your wife wasn't a da'i, maybe I would have spent half an hour with my wife in a day, besides the basic thing. But if she's a da'i, I can spend more hours. And today I spend few hours every day discussing about dawah issues, discussing how can we promote Islam. So it's a Venn diagram doing dawah as well as giving time to your wife. And when I got married, people told me that now that you're married, your time for dawah will become less. And I was worried. But because I married a da'iya, I started giving, previously I used to give before marriage maybe 8-9 hours a day. When I married, I started giving 12 hours. When I had children, we opened a school and gave time for school also, started giving about 16 hours a day. Alhamdulillah. It's a Venn diagram. How can women do dawah? By various ways. They can, one of the ways is if they're good with the pen, they can write articles on the social media, they can write books, the literature can be spread, it can be read by non-Muslims, male and female, no problem. She can give lectures, especially exclusively non-Muslims, exclusively to the ladies. And my wife used to give several lectures in India. When we shifted to Malaysia, she used to give twice a week lectures, and a lot of women used to come. Now, because of lockdown, she started getting, I'm feeling uneasy, and now the month of Ramadan has come and there's no lecture, etc. So she started giving online. Never before she given online. She doesn't have any audio of her lectures. Not that it's haram, because voice doesn't come in the aura, but she wanted to be more careful. So for all these years, more than 25 years that she has done Dawa, we have restricted any video recording, we have restricted audio recording, but now the situation was such that we are going to be locked down for 2 months and not doing Dawa for 2 months. She could not. And she asked me, I said, no problem. All the scholars agree that voice of a woman doesn't come in aura. So she started giving online on webinar. Then I told her, why webinar? Go on the Facebook. So now when she comes on the Facebook, there's only an audio live lecture with PowerPoint presentation. She is not seen in the webinar or on the Facebook, but a PowerPoint. There's a PowerPoint which keeps on changing depending upon what she's speaking. So she's not seen, because that is preferable. Because if you have a lady and the close-up is there may be namehram, there may be gents coming, it may break the hijab. So I'm not in favor of women coming on videos, and it's a high chances the hijab can be broken. So she is doing on audio. If they're coming in niqab, then no problem. But I prefer an audio with a PowerPoint. And she has started. First it was initially only a webinar, and there are a few hundred people coming. Now, just last Sunday, she went on the Facebook and more than 1,200 people heard her and saw the PowerPoint presentation. Inshallah, when time rolls, the audience would become bigger, the reach would be much more, inshallah. So Dawa can be done in various ways, but preferably the woman should do Dawa to the woman and take care of the woman problems, because a woman can take care of the woman problem much more, like asking questions on the thing of Islam, about fasting, about the women issue. A woman will be much more comfortable to ask a woman. So in these cases, of course, and if she is the wife of a dai, all the more reason easier, they'll understand each other better. And many a time when we go, I travel a lot. I've given lectures in more than 40 countries of the world, and my wife has accompanied many times, and she has given lectures in more than 20 countries of the world, and my children maybe more than 10 countries of the world. When we go many times as a family, when I accept an invitation, they even call my children and my wife. So we go to a conference or exclusive lecture organized for me, series of lecture. I and my son speak to the gent. My son starts, gives the talk for half an hour, 45 minutes. Then I give a talk for about 1 hour, 15 minutes, 1.5 hours, followed by question answer session. Simultaneously, not at the same time, but the same day, maybe in the morning, my lecture is in the evening. At a different time, there's a separate exclusive gathering of women. Like when we went to Indonesia, there were thousands of women, 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, and it was exclusively lady gathering. And my daughter spoke first, then my wife spoke. And it was an 11-day lecture tour. After the lecture tour got over, we extended for 2 days, and we had only family time. So it's a Venn diagram. We are serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, follow His commandments, doing Dawa with the children, with the family. So the full family, the dai, it is nothing better than that you can pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I request that all the brothers and sisters see to it that if you can make Dawa as your full-time profession, it's the best profession. Allah says in the Quran in Surah Fusilat, chapter number 41, verse number 33, Allah says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَالًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا قَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who is better in speech than one who invites to the way of thy Lord, works righteously, and says that I am a Muslim. The best profession according to the glorious Quran, according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a dai. So if everyone in the family is a dai, nothing like it. If you cannot be a full-time dai, at least be a part-time dai. Don't be a spare-time dai, but at least be a part-time dai.